G'day folks, Russ Comet here. Welcome back to Spa in the Ferrari 296 GT3. This is just a quick little lap guide. Hopefully it'll help you find a couple of tenths here and there. I'll preface this by saying I'm not the fastest person out there. I think this lap was a 2:16.4, so pretty happy with it, but there's definitely people out there faster than me. I was just hoping if this can help you find a tenth or two, then it would be useful. So I'm going to come onto the lap here. I'll pause the video a few times. We'll go through things corner by corner, and then at the end we can watch it from start to finish uninterrupted. So here we go, onto the main straight. First of all, we're aiming pretty much straight diagonal down this straight. Shortest route possible to the outside of turn 1. And what we're looking for here is this 100 marker on the left-hand side. There's also this little bit of grass that's just slightly lighter, almost looks like a little yellow line on the ground. You can also use that for a braking marker during the day, but you know, it's pretty much even with the 100 board. These are your braking markers for turn 1, and as soon as we get here, we're going to shift down into first pretty quickly, use a bit of the engine braking, and then try and get as close to the right-hand wall as we can. So we go down into first, back on the throttle as quickly as we can to get the best run down the hill, and then through Eau Rouge and up Raidillon. So coming up now, this will be flat out in the Ferrari. It should be in most setups. And what we want to do here is, as we come up, we want to turn in to the left pretty early, get the car as far left as possible, almost getting your left wheels over this curve, almost onto the grass, and then turning right as quickly as possible so we go up the hill. Getting this car turned early means that we're not going to run wide up here, means we can keep the throttle down, the car stays pretty stable, and it's just the quickest way through. So this right-hand side curb here, we pretty much want to avoid. You can just slightly graze it, and you'll probably get away with it, but I wouldn't aim to hit it. I'd aim to get as close to it as possible without hitting it. So here we go, all the way across to the left, up to the right, flat out, and then as we get here, you can see we're quite far left on the road. And that's because track limits here, all you have to do is keep your right wheels just on this curb. So you can use all this track out here as long as your right-hand wheels are touching this curb. There's a couple of reasons we want to do that. One, you know, it's the fastest way forward. We're using, like, we're almost cutting the corner here as much as possible. But on top of that, if we were to try and turn the car all the way over to the right-hand side here, as we're coming across the hill, it's going to get really loose. We're still going to be turning right. The back of the car is going to come away from us, and we're just going to end up in this wall here. So we don't want to do that. Essentially, by the time you get to the top of the crest, you want to have your steering wheel pretty much straight. You want the car stable, and that's just going to like leap over this little bump here. You're not going to lose too much speed, and it's just going to keep the car a lot safer than trying to go all the way out here to the right. So we do that. And off we go, up the Kemmel straight. Pretty quick here in the Ferrari. I think with this setup you normally hit about 275. And once again, coming up the hill, we're looking for this 100 marker board. So you can see it's just before the curb. You can kind of get away, depending on how brave you are, braking at the curb, but I brake just a little bit early. I find if I do that, then I can ease off the brake a little more into the corner, and it just means I get a better run through the second half of this chicane. So coming in just before, we want to use this curb on the right here, and then coming across to the left, use all of this curb. The Ferrari handles it quite well. It's a shorter run, and what it does is it sets you up nicely for this next right-hander we're coming up to. So don't be afraid of this curb. If you hit it kind of halfway, that's when things get a bit rough, but if you use a lot of it, the car runs over it pretty smoothly. And then through here, there's no real braking needed for this corner. You're kind of just letting the car ease in, and as soon as you feel like the car's going to be pointing in the right direction, get on the throttle, let the rear come around just that little bit. There is quite a good slip angle in this Ferrari, so you can kind of power out a bit of the curb. I normally shift up to third a little early here to keep the car more stable, using all of that outside curb. Braking right at the start of the curb there. A little bit of a double apex in this corner, which you can do. Sometimes you just want to hug the inside. It doesn't change the time too much. But you're kind of trail braking through that corner, trying to hug the inside, get a good exit here, wait for the car to turn in, and then you don't want to go too far out to the left here because you've got this left-hander coming up. So you want to get it back to the right as quickly as possible. And then you can just touch this curb. You don't want to use too much of it. If you get your right wheels out onto this green section, that's when the car's going to get caught in this curb. You're not going to be able to turn in properly. You're not going to have a good time. So touch this curb, but then almost immediately you're swinging left, trying to get all the way over this curb, get the car turned, and once again, using that slip angle and using the power to try and turn the rear of the car, get yourself the best exit possible. So you can see the car sliding a little bit through here, and then using all of this curb on the outside, and down the hill we go to Pouhon. Now, I don't really have a good braking marker for Pouhon. It's kind of just before this red marker here is what I'm using. So I'm up into 5th, and then as you're braking, you're coming across, aiming straight for this apex right here while you're still on the brake. So you're kind of braking and turning at the same time, getting the car turned around. And then it's really just a waiting game. Feel when the car looks like it's pointing in the right direction. And the moment you think that you can get on throttle, and then trust the car from there. So you'll see, come in, it's looking at it, and then I'm back on throttle here. Use this outside curb, don't use too much of it, it'll unsettle the car. And then flat out through here, trust the car, trust it's going to get you around. It normally does. And then coming up to this chicane here, you've got this this little sign. That's pretty much your braking marker. If it's midday, like it is in this session here, the shadow is handily right below it, so you can use that as your braking marker. But otherwise, you just kind of timing it with when you get to this pole. I normally shift down to 2nd here, using the engine braking to pull the car across. Using this curb can kind of hook you in to pull you around the corner, which is nice, gives you a better run through the second part here. No brakes real needed for this left-hander. You're just kind of playing that patient waiting game. Get up on this curb, let the car settle, and then once again, that moment you feel like you've got the car turned just enough, get on the throttle, use all of the exit. You can short shift up to 3rd again just to settle the car. So here we go, over the curb, on the throttle, on the curb here, and then we're pretty much aiming straight diagonal across, straight for this curb. That's what you're looking for. You want to aim this car straight for the end of this curb here, but then brake just before you get to it and swing the car right. So doing that, just use a little bit of the curb. Once again, back on the throttle as soon as you feel like you can be. You can see how wide you can go here. This is probably the limit of how wide you are. If you go much wider, this will invalidate your lap, but you can use a lot of this curb out here. And that has 2 benefits. It means you can get on the throttle early out of the last corner. And on top of that, it means that you've got a wider setup to get through here. So this corner, flat out on the Ferrari again. Once again, turning in just slightly earlier than you think you want to, and trying to get all the way across this curb. Get your right-hand tires onto this curb and it'll suck you in a little bit. It can kind of make the car slide a little bit and you'll lose a little bit of exit speed, but it does make it a lot easier to get around the corner. So you come in here, you can see close to the curb as possible, using all of this exit space, and then back across, and we're flat out up to Blanchimont now. As for shifting in this car, I've just been shifting when the lights start flashing red. I know you can probably rev it longer, it's got power for days. Here, don't go too wide, but you're flat out through Blanchimont. Turn in early, use all the exit curb. And then coming up to the bus stop chicane, you can see that white line we just crossed over. You can see a little bit of over there. When you cross that, you feel like you want to start braking, just wait like that half a second. That moment, just cross it, have that moment in your head, and then slam on the brakes. That's kind of what I've been using as my braking marker. And what you'll find is just that as you keep practicing, that moment will get slightly longer and longer, and your braking will get deeper and deeper, and then one day you'll brake and go flying off the edge, and you'll realize, okay, I've waited too long. So you bring it back again, and just keep pushing it. So, as you can see, we didn't go all the way out to the left here either, kind of braking in the middle of the road and swinging out to the left, using the extra diagonal of this road to increase our braking zone. Still swing out to the left, on the brakes, all the way down to 1st, using the engine braking, use all of the curbs but not too much sausage, and then back on the throttle early, use all of the exit curb again, and here we go across the line. So yeah, that was a 2:16.4. Pretty happy with that lap time. But now we can let you watch it all by yourself without me interrupting and see how it goes. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, feel free to give the video a like. Feel free to subscribe as well. I'll be putting out a few more of these lap guides, and there's a few upcoming streams as well. It's good to be back on YouTube, but without further ado, I'll leave you to it. All right, let's check this out.